Hey guys, sorry I'm a minute late. Oh my gosh, I was just hey, I was just I've got my IGTV up as well, and I had it sort of like lower last time, and I felt really bad because I was just like looking down, and I try to always be looking at the camera. So let's see. Now, where is everybody from? Oh my gosh, somebody's already telling me what tea they're drinking. Now, you know I love it. Debbie, Calgary, woohoo. I lived. Can you guys hear me, first of all? Somebody let me know. Can you hear me? What mic have I got? Oh my gosh. Let me check. Okay, good. Can you hear me? So I lived in Calgary. My grandpa built a house at the top of Scotsman's Hill. I used to work at the Stampede. So fun. My sister, my sister-in-law, who I love, and my brother still live there. California, yes. R. Anderson, you can hear me. Thank you. Shelby, Minnesota. Awesome. Kathy's here from Ontario. Woohoo! I won't call it Ontario. I'm not a jerk. I'm actually joking. I don't even know. I haven't been there since I was like 4. We lived there, and then I stopped at the airport there once. All right. So where else is everybody from? Florida. And Kelsey, you got your Murchie's tea. Okay, so guys, I have got my favorite tea. I'm going to take you away. There we go. I've got my favorite tea. It is pumpkin chai. You know I love this tea. Oh, Meg, you're here from France. Hello. You are just so sweet. Toronto, Rhode Island. Yes, my skin is incredible. Okay, I love it. That's the magic of makeup. I have rosacea, so I work hard. In fact, I have to limit my tea to only like 3 or 4 a day because of that. So the tea I'm drinking, pumpkin chai, which I buy 2 kilograms of every fall. I reached out to David's Tea and I was like, I feel like you should sponsor me. I talk about you all the time. So they actually have given me a link to put at the bottom of videos. I don't have it right now because I just got the notice yesterday and they gave me a thing to put on my website, but I don't have the thing for my link, but that's okay. I mean, I love them. I just was like, I may as well. I talk about it all the time. So yeah. And Tennessee, hello, Kathy, Carrie, Theodore, which tea? This is my David's Tea Pumpkin Chai. R. Anderson, you're from New Jersey. Isa, Tennessee. Meg, of course, from France. Manitoba, woohoo, Helen. I love seeing lots of my Canadians, but my American and my international friends, that's great. And now let's see, where are my people? Hello, Tanya. Tanya from Nanaimo. I was just thinking about you yesterday as I was like getting my mind in my Christmas mindset already and thinking I need to get some amaryllises. Okay, so you guys, I kind of was like last minute rushing around. So all of my notes for this live stream are not there. But you know what I really wanted to talk to you guys about was today, just like decluttering and like the peace that you get from decluttering. And a lot of people, they want to declutter so badly. And one of my students from my course recently, she was saying like, yeah, I can't do this. She said, I can't declutter. I can't deal with sentimental things. I can't deal with the piles. And I've tried all these things. And I'm like, okay, well, you have to decide what you want to do. You need to decide if you want to live with clutter or if you want to have peace. And so a lot of people don't even realize how much stress the clutter is causing them. And like, really, guys, if you're here, it's because you want to declutter. Let me know what your like why it bothers you. Like for me in the past, it just, I mean, and I'm not going to say I don't ever have it. Like I think my house this morning is a tiny bit cluttered because my kids were like, we were running late getting to the school. My 16-year-old is like lost his phone again today because he came upstairs late. And I was like, enough's enough. You're 16. You have to get yourself up in the morning. So your phone is mine after school because he uses it for notes and stuff. But yeah, like the clutter, it bothers me. So my morning routine is always making sure everything is picked up and put away because I just do not want to be dealing with the clutter because I know how badly it affects me. And um and I bet it affects you guys badly too. And it really, like, it just interferes with your way of life overall. Um and it takes a lot of joy away from you and you don't even realize it. And so it's funny because it's super, super distracting. And I know, like, I talk about this all the time, but I think that a lot of people, they just need to hear things a few times until it really clicks that they decide they're going to make an actual decision. Um, and and I don't know what your name is, Rani. Talking about the silent to-do list, and that is exactly it. Like, we feel like there are just always things bogging us down. And you can't, and I tell the story all the time of, like, working in the emergency room and coming home to a messy house and just like how much the clutter really was bothering me. And I can't blame my husband because, at that time our kids were younger and he was like dealing with dinner. He doesn't love cooking, and then dealing with school, and two of our kids have ADHD. And so then you're dealing with all of that on top of it. Like, you ask people to do things and they have trouble. And so, yeah, like when you are surrounded by clutter all the time, then you end up feeling like there's just always stuff to do. You can't even like sit down and really like enjoy your tea, right? Tammy is saying that she just moved into the living room and the dining room so her older kids could have their own room, but she's got too much stuff and it's bothering her. And that's just it. Like, that's lovely because you are, letting your kids have this room, which is so nice, but then you're surrounded by the stress, like you can't even like relax. But yeah, I mean, and Rita, it does feel so good once you get that decluttering and organizing done. And for me personally, like, you know, you can't, I actually like, I wrote this thing down the other day, and I'm gonna wipe my nose here. Pardon me. I don't know why when I do these live streams, my nose gets runny. I don't know why. But yeah, like when you have something to do, like anytime I'm doing something and I'm like, oh, when is this going to end? I always think to myself, like, it won't stop. Like, time is not going to stop. And you will get there when you are decluttering. You can't stop time. You can't make it go faster, but you can be consistent. You can do things like half an hour every day or like 15 minutes every day, whatever works for you. And yeah, Kelsey, I know that clutter is so hard for your mental health and it's bad for mine. And people don't even recognize how much it is affecting them. And actually, you talk about executive function. I have a video coming out in a couple of weeks. I'm filming it today, and it's about ADHD because executive function is something that people with ADHD struggle with. And it is basically just like getting anything done is more of a challenge than for people who don't have ADHD. And then when you've got clutter around you, it is that much more distracting. Like, you just are and even like for me, like if I'm like trying to rush around, it is so hard for me not to be, even like when I was coming out for this live stream, I was like ran up to my bedroom because I left my glasses out there because I was putting makeup on. One of the few times I wear makeup, actually almost the only time, is when I'm filming. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to quickly switch out these Kleenex boxes because I had brought a new one up there. And I was like saying to myself, I'm like, Robin, prioritize. You can do this in a bit. But yeah, like that's why it's just so nice. The less you can take off your plate, the better. Like, I think most of my audience is women, looking at the names here. And I think that it really is just like, there's just so much to do. And for me in my house, my husband has ADHD, and 2 of my kids do, and I naturally am just more of that organized person. So I take that stuff on more, but then you end up taking on a lot. And then when there is clutter, it just makes it that much harder because you are then trying to deal with all of that. And one of the people, I've got a couple of questions later from YouTube, people asked me, and one of them was like, well, I may as well read it now. Where did I go? She says, I would love to see advice on creating routines and communicating expectations for other members of the household when you are in the process of decluttering and you have traditionally done everything yourself, but it's burning you out. And she says, both for kids and adults. And for me, and so that's from Ray. But for me, like, this is what I said. Like everyone has a different threshold for clutter. And for me, my threshold for clutter is much lower than my husband's, although his is really lowering as well. And so this is hope for anybody who's like, my husband doesn't care. My husband, he really doesn't like clutter anymore after we've been minimalist for a few years now. But often one of us, and usually you, if you're one of the people on this live stream or watching this video, usually you're the one that decides that something needs to change. And so once you start changing anything in your life for the better, sometimes the people that are closest to you, hey, there's my girl, Mary Beth. But sometimes when you make changes, the people closest to you can actually kind of rebel a little bit. And it doesn't look like full-on rebellion. It basically is like they are just resisting what you're doing. Like sometimes people, they decide they're going to exercise, and that is a problem for their family members. So their family might be grumpy, or when they're like, I'm going to the gym, they might say something snide. And it can be sort of similar when it comes to decluttering. They might be like, oh, I want to keep that. And that's great, Rajni, that you're getting your little one to build habits. And your husband is not a lost cause, because the thing is, when it's the beginning, it's a good idea just to do your own thing. Like just start decluttering. And the thing is, you need to lead by example, especially with the adults, funny enough. Like just declutter consistently, be really kind when you're doing it, and just start gently talking about the benefits. Really just be like, gosh, like it's really nice. We have like this extra space, or I kind of like how that wall isn't like covered in things anymore. And hopefully your family starts to notice the changes, and that they actually like are starting to like these changes. And I just want to be sure you guys can still see me because I clicked on a different tab. Let me see here. I'm just going to leave that up. Boom, dragged it over. And so one of the things, so if your family is willing, maybe ask them if they want to help you for 30 minutes a day. And that might be a big ask. Right now for my 16-year-old, that would be a big ask, because he's actually doing very well in school this year, which is wonderful. And we, it's hard for him to find much extra time. He has very little time to even relax. So I wouldn't ask him for 30 minutes a day. Some adults might not want to do a few things a day, 30 minutes a day. But, if it's you that is mostly the one that is motivated, sometimes you need to take the reins. And if you want to do it every day, which I totally recommend, you do that every day, and just maybe see if they can help you on the weekend. And let them know the reasons why you want to declutter, like all of the benefits that you're going to see when the clutter is gone. And you'll say like, hey, I'm going to have more time. We are all going to have more time. We are going to be dealing with our stuff less. There won't be as much stress. We'll have less time that we're spending cleaning, just how peaceful your house will be. And how, like I said, you won't be managing all of your stuff. You won't have to clean all of it. And so let me know, or let them know the reasons why you want to declutter and how the clutter bothers you. And maybe it bothers them. And again, you gotta be really gentle when in stuff like this, seriously. And if they don't want to, or if they say it doesn't bother them, I would just be gently reminding them like, hey, like, just, this does bother me though. And ideally your family's going to want to pitch in and support you, like they should want you to be happy as well. And so it gets complicated when your family isn't motivated, or if they're really sentimental, or if they're kind of grumpy about the whole thing. Like, everybody has different family dynamics, and some of these topics, like, really, I can't get into here, but I would just keep things as light as possible, and maybe just ask them if they could commit, maybe like once a week, once per day. In our house, our family goes around, and we just do a declutter. At 7 o'clock, everybody puts all their stuff away and puts things away. So I find that that is really helpful, and it really, really helps with the peace in the house. I mean, there's just less to do. You just have more time to relax. And yes, Mary Beth, I see that your husband is a maximalist, you're saying. Yeah, I honestly, I find that different people, I mean, my middle child, let me tell you, sip of my tea. He is kind of a clutterbug. Like, he's a little sentimental about things. I mean, when I was growing up, my grandpa in Calgary, at the top of Scotsman's Hill, for the Calgarians here, he had kept so much, like, in their attic. He had boxes and boxes piled up, and they, what was in them? Newspapers. And then there were a bunch of records, which was such a bummer, because when I was a teenager and finally into records, one of my cousins had already gone through all of the records and taken them all. But yeah, it's funny. And like Mary Beth is saying on Instagram, like, she had to learn the trust factor with her family. And after trying and failing at a bunch of the stuff, they thought it was just another thing that she was doing. And I can completely see that, because I mean, how many times have I said to my kids, from now on, we are blah, 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 blah. So I could see that. But really, I think the benefit is just keep saying, this is so good. This is helping. Look how we have more time. Do you notice how, like, we're sitting down and we're having tea and we're not stressed out by the clutter right now? So I think that that is really, really helpful. And Tammy says her middle child. How did you know it was my middle child? Did I say it was my middle child? Because he is definitely, he's my Jan Brady. That's really funny, because when we were driving to school today, I said, your name's the only one that doesn't start with a vowel. I said, you're so special. And I was like, oh, the special middle child. Do you like being a middle child? And he was like, no. And I was like, why? Like, I've never heard him complain about, being a middle child. And he's like, well, Ewan always gets the new clothes. And when I was in grade 6, you liked Ollie more. And I'm like, what are you even talking about? Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Somebody is here from the Outer Hebrides. That is so cool. My mother-in-law is from Edinburgh, Scotland. So gosh, I love seeing where you guys are all from. And I would love for you guys to continue asking more questions. And so Naughty is saying, hello from Manitoba. I have been living 24/7 with my kids in the same space since March 2019. Clutter is my nemesis. You know what? Maybe worse than living with ADHD, people who collect. And yeah, that's true. And the thing is, people with ADHD often tend to have a lot of clutter. And they also might be collectors. But yeah, collecting is a really interesting thing. I used to collect when I was a kid. I think, like, didn't we all have like a sticker book? And I think we also collected like little badges like you get from like brownies or guides, but also, gosh, what else did we collect? But yeah, I know collections to me are not something I like, but I'm not gonna yuck anybody's yum. But I think that if you are going to have a collection, you need to store it or display it properly. And the thing is, if you're going to keep something, you want to have it so that you can enjoy it, right? It's like with sentimental items. Kelsey, you collected bath beads. You know what? I haven't thought about bath beads in like forever. Let me just open up my other question here because and this one was about finance. And so I was like, I really, 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 really need to make a paperwork. Somebody's from Italy. That's super cool. Let's see, Helen. I always tell my parents they got so much more done back in the day, yet we are supposed to have all the conveniences to do jobs faster. I think we just have too much stuff to occupy our time. There's so many things. Okay, here's one thing. You have got to listen. Colette, my amazing sister-in-law, is going to be like, yes. Listen to the podcast that Jewel did with Joe Rogan. And Colette had shared that with me. And I was like, this is a 3-hour podcast, but you can actually watch it on Spotify on your phone. And so I've been like, sort of like every now and then I turn it on. I really liked Jewel back in the 90s. I'm not a huge Jewel fan now. I don't really like folk music, but like her song, oh my gosh, what is that song? I can't even remember. I wish Colette was on here right now. But this podcast about her life is absolutely incredible. And just about how she lived homesteading in Alaska. Her family had moved over from Switzerland. They left like right when World War II was happening, like they barely made it out. And then they just set up this homestead and they lived in Alaska, but it was like a rough upbringing. Her life was crazy. I forget the name of that song, and it's like a super sad song. And you always thought it was about a guy, but it was actually about her mom and just, like she had a crazy life, but she is so wise. She has her head on her shoulders. Her perspective on so many things is just so good, and self-regulation and anxiety. I know that seems a little off topic, but it just made me think about that when you said like people were so much hardier. Oh, there's a cat fight. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. We foster kittens, and I have one left, and she is very independent. But anyway, yes, people used to be a lot more hardy, and they had a lot more stuff. Like Jewel, when she was growing up, they went to the creek for water. She said she would haul it up in buckets to get to water the garden. She said you did not waste a drop. People are so detached from nature and their environment and everything. They don't even recognize that. They don't even know how heavy water is. And I thought that is so interesting. It's seriously like, just do yourself a favor and just watch slash listen to this podcast. It is so good. Whether or not you like either of them. I mean, people have issues with either, but still so good. And GHG is from Reykjavik in Iceland, 70% decluttered in 2 years. That is so amazing. And Iceland is just top 3 for places I want to go. Tammy says, but now that I know what I'm going to do, hopefully I know what I don't need and can just throw much stupid little crap out. Yeah, so this is the thing. I think people really need to recognize that, like, this is the question that I ask, like, when I'm talking to my dad, who I love very much, but he has a lot of clutter. He's very sentimental. He's a very sweet, wonderful guy. And he has a lot of stuff. And him and my mom separated like 15, 16 years ago. And it's really, really hard for, I thought I did put the link on the Facebook group, Meg. It's also on my Facebook page. Sorry. But my dad, he really, really was struggling with decluttering. He still struggles. Like, he says he was proud when he decluttered a ladle, which was good, but everything for him is a memory, and it's just hard to let go. And I said, you gotta ask yourself, do I want to be surrounded by all of these memories at the expense of like having clutter around me? I'm going to be taking away my happiness just so I can have these memories around me. Like, if you really, really want to have all of your memories, declutter the thing and write the memory down. Like I just, oh, like you don't want to unless you do. Like I said, that one student I had, she just really is struggling letting things go. And she's tried a lot of things. And she just says, things are sentimental. Things cost a lot of money. I don't want to send things to the landfill. And I'm like, listen, you honestly, you can't, it's up to you. Like clearly you would rather have this clutter around you than, oh yes, I will. Thank you, Meg. I will put the link in our Facebook group. But yeah, like clearly you are choosing the clutter over the peace. And you really have to remember that you are choosing when you are like, I'm deciding I'm going to keep this. You are making a decision and you are saying, I am going to keep this clutter and not choose peace. It sounds like harsh to say, but I'm telling you, I am telling you, you definitely do not. I will get to the rest of your message, Tammy, but I'm telling you, as a person who now has the peace without the clutter around, I really, really want you to understand it's so good. And anybody else who has that, like Mary Beth on Instagram, like you know what it's like. Other people who have done it. Tammy says, I am trying hard to declutter. So I only put part of her message up. Let me see. Can I put two? No. I am trying hard to declutter, starting a small business, and I need this stuff out of here. Plus, hopefully, some of these kids will move out and I can downsize apartments. But now that I know what I'm going to do, hopefully, I know that I don't need. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, you just recognize you have to just ask yourself, like, the number one thing that I always say is, does this add value to your life? Like my cup here, it does. It's holding my drink. This microphone, it's bulky, but it adds value to my life because when I don't use it on my live streams, it doesn't sound good. So it's worth keeping around. I actually don't love it. I don't love the bulk that comes from something like this, but it's adding value to my life. My painting behind me, it adds value to my life. But some things don't. I can't even find. Okay, here's something. I found something that doesn't. This is a flyer for well, it might add value, but no. It's a meal delivery subscription service. And that's a flyer. It doesn't add value to my life unless I decide I'm going to use that coupon. But here's the thing, and I'm going to get to that in a second. You got to deal with your mail right away. So always ask yourself, does this add value to my life? Christy's here and she was cleaning out her pantry. Christy, good for you. Okay, my nose still a little drippy. I'm not sick. It just happens whenever I live stream. I don't know why. But yeah, like, so I think that honestly, like there are a lot of other questions you can ask yourself, but ultimately, is it adding value to your life? And by adding value to your life, I don't mean you pick it up and you have a happy memory. No, like if it's something like that, it needs to be a treasure, something that you keep. What's his name? Peter Walsh, who used to go on Oprah all of the time. Total, like one of the OG gurus of decluttering. He will say, like, is it a treasure? Is it a trinket? I think the third one is malignant. I use a different term, but basically he says like treasures are rare. Treasures are something where often they don't have another value to somebody else. Like the painting behind me, I could call it a treasure. I painted it. So it might be more of a treasure to somebody else one day. Potentially I would declutter it one day. And that's not to say I don't get sentimental about things. I do have a video coming up about my grandparents' house, and then I have a video coming up about decluttering their house when everything is sentimental. But the thing is, Peter Walsh says, if it's a treasure, it's rare. Like you can put them all on your dining room table and they shouldn't go beyond that. You really shouldn't have that many treasures. And I was looking around my living room because if you've seen video of around my TV, we have 2 IKEA bookshelves, a thing above and then a thing below, like around the TV. I don't Love it. There are things on every shelf. It's very intentional. Like I say, I like to be like a reasonable minimalist and be really intentional. And I was looking at it the other day, but everybody else in the house loves it. It really isn't cluttered, but I just look at it. But everything on it is special. Everything has meaning. So that's just it. Treasures are really rare. And trinkets are things where you pick it up and you might laugh and be like, oh, that's so funny. Like, yeah, I remember that. Or, yeah, this reminds me of this. And that's when you write that memory down and you declutter that item. You give it to somebody else. You send it to Salvation Army or Goodwill. Those are what the things that you do. Okay. So time for another question. The other question I had was, paperwork to keep or not to keep? That is the question. Some things are paperless, which is good, but sometimes hard copies are essential. At least I think so. Help, Canadian edition from Angie. So, I just want to say, obviously, a little CYA. I am not an expert in anything to do with, I'm not an accountant. I'm not a lawyer. Check with your local laws. But there are a couple of tips on this. So number one, when you get your mail, make your decision quickly. I didn't follow my own advice there. In all honesty, I was going to check out the website and see if the meals looked good. But if I haven't done it by now, I need to just declutter it and do it another day. But make your decision immediately. Get your mail in the house and be like, what do I need to do with this? A lot of it, like I have my shredder in my office here and I'm right next to the front door and I can just drop stuff in, shred it right away. So make a decision right away. The second thing, reconcile your credit cards, your mortgage statements, and pay stubs right away. So when you come in the door, open them up, look at it and be like, yeah, this checks out. This is right. Okay. I don't need to keep that. You can shred it. And again, you decide what you shred. And then number 3 is my favorite, and that is go digital whenever possible. So we don't get any bank statements or credit card in the mail. I don't actually get a ton of mail. Scan important documents as a backup. And I'll talk about what to keep in just a second. And then do as much online as possible. I don't have a lot of paperwork to deal with anymore, like I said. Oh, I saw something. I've got my candle, and I think I saw like a little puff of smoke go by the, that smells good. Go by the phone. So anyway, yeah, so just do as much online as you can and really just get it set up, manage your passwords using like a password manager. And then number 4, receipts, keep an envelope and keep them for a month. Important documents you might want to keep longer. Like if it has a warranty, I staple my receipt to the warranty usually. And when it comes to instruction manuals and stuff, a lot of those can be decluttered because almost every instruction manual is online, which is great. So important documents to keep in Canada. You don't need to hang on to monthly or quarterly RRSP or RESP statements. Just hang on to the annual ones. Keep your tax returns for 6 years. T4 statements, RRSP contributions, property taxes, anything you need for taxes in case you get audited. And then you want to keep records for, and so in the States, in the US, I'm sorry, I don't have France or Iceland or Italy, but or any of the other countries that are here. Thank you for joining me. But in the States, it says keep record. This is right from the IRS. I hear good things about them. Keep records for 3 years from the date you filed your original return, or for 2 years from the date that you paid the tax, whichever is later. If you file a claim for credit or a refund after you file your return, check the IRS website. I don't even know what that means. And then it says keep records for 7 years if you claim a file for a loss from worthwhile securities or bad debt deduction. I don't know what the heck that means. So, but these are the important documents that you want to keep forever. And this is probably what Angie was talking about. So wills, power of attorneys, property deeds, life insurance, pension plans, etc. Keep them in a safe box. Like a safe, something that is actually like fireproof is really helpful. Active insurance policies. So, life insurance, auto insurance, medical insurance. Let me tell you, we had a flood a few years ago. I am so glad that we had our insurance policy on hand because we were calling the insurance company like pronto. Medical records, military records, real estate records. So, like purchasing your house, selling your house, birth certificates, divorce, child custody orders. So, I keep mine. I have a binder and I would show it to you, but it's in the safe now. But I just have those plastic sleeves like page protectors, and I slide a lot of them in there. And some things I don't mind like putting holes in to just put in the binder as well. And then I just have like dividers. And so I've got like insurance and mortgage and like in really important documents like our marriage certificate and birth certificates. I don't know why in BC, but our middle kid has like a birth certificate that's like this big. Like the others have like a much more reasonable size. But so that is how you deal with paperwork. Paperwork is just one of the things I get the most questions about. It is such a burden. But number one, clutter, basically almost all clutter just comes from indecision. So make a decision. And so Rajni was saying that the lady trying to declutter as she's starting her business, she says, so this is for, oh my gosh, I'm missing a bunch of comments. Tammy. So try packing duplicates of items away and see if you use them within 6 months. And if yes, keep. If no, you don't need it. And that's just it, right? Like a lot of things, like when I went through, I don't know if you guys watched my like decluttering under the stairs video. I think it was called sentimental items or something. But I was like, a lot of the stuff I hadn't seen for years. So I was clearly not missing it. I kept a few things, but I did not keep much. And I know it was not easy for my poor dad to watch because he's so sentimental. But I was like, sorry. And actually, my mom, she didn't like it either. Okay, let's see. What are some questions here? Yikes, I don't want to miss any. Michelle says her problem is toys and kid clothes. I have such a tough time letting them go. And right now I'm working in my daughter's room and I have her shelf ready. The toys are still sitting, waiting for me to sort. Bye, Mary Beth. So these toys, are these toys your daughter plays with, Michelle? I just don't have the heart to let go of how much was spent, the savings, because they came from her siblings, but she plays with like 5 things. How do I let go? Okay. So I completely understand that it is hard to let things go, to let your kids' toys go. I mean, I've talked about the what's it called? The instinct, the 3 instincts that Margareta Magnuson talks about in her Dostatting book, which is the Scandinavian death cleaning. And the one that I think hits home for a lot of people is the fear of death. And that is pretty much, you don't realize it, but anytime we're having trouble letting something go that is something that we have like history with or something from our kids growing up, it's kind of the fear of death, if you think about it. Like I'm a really sentimental person in that I will say, this is the last time that, like I was at my grandparents' house before it sold, like just over a month ago. And I was like, this is the last time that I will be here. And I didn't even bring my kids back. I don't know why, but like I was busy, but I was also like, I don't want them to be like, this is the last time we're here. I don't know why. So I'm kind of sentimental in that. And that is like kind of the fear of death, right? Like you can't hold on to everything forever. And that's kind of what it's like when it comes to toys. Your kids' toys, they have meaning to you. I remember my son, like I would watch with, hey, Cindy, that's one of my students. I remember when my youngest was little. Well, all of them, we would watch Max and Ruby. He would call it Max and Rudy. And I would like sometimes be like, oh, this show is terrible. And I would be like lying in my bed. But I'm telling you, if Max and Ruby was on the TV right now, I probably wouldn't turn it off. I'm not going to go and seek it out. But wouldn't that be weird? or like Little Bear, the show Little Bear, right? So it's really hard, our kids growing up. At the same time, we look forward to it, but in a lot of ways we don't. So it's hard to let things go, but you have to ask yourself, like, what is it? Do I want all these toys around forever? Probably not. So what I would do is I would keep like just a few. I mean, and your daughter, I don't know how old she is, but there's going to be more and more things that you're going to want to keep. So pick like one, maybe two things to hang on to, and you can put them aside in a box, like, and save them for your grandkids, because maybe your grandkids will play with that one day. I mean, I remember playing with toys that used to be my dad's at my grandpa's house, and that was really fun. So, and so save a few, but not much, and really pick the best, maybe the ones that are in the best shape, the things that you find the most sentimental attachment to. I mean, there's nothing wrong with keeping a couple of things. Like I said, I'm a reasonable minimalist. Like, I'm not going to say get rid of everything. There are a couple of things in my kids' closet that we've kept. I did a video about decluttering my baby's closet because I went for my I'm just reading the comments there. I went through them and I was just like, yeah, like I'm not going to keep that many. So I was just laughing because Kathy said it's that darn vowel. So that would be like my son being annoyed with one of his brothers because his name starts with a B. That's so funny. Okay, let me see. Oh my gosh, so many things. Don't overthink the flyer, Robin. Thank you, Kelsey. I won't. Like, as if I couldn't find a coupon code online, right? Like, this is it. That's just it. Like, I'm not perfect. You gotta make these decisions right away and say to yourself, I'm not going to overthink the flyer. Thank you, Kelsey. Okay, so I'm going to read a bit more. So hopefully that helped answer your question, Michelle. Steel Girl, if it's a treasure, we would display it and honor it. Exactly. If it's in a box, you're not honoring that thing. Wouldn't it be nice for somebody else to have that thing? And the thing is, sometimes things cost money, especially when it comes to toys, and you're looking at things and you're like, well, that costs a lot of money. Think about how nice it would be for another little girl or little boy to have that toy that's like a quality toy, and they might not even have the opportunity to get a toy like that. So if you were to donate it or even just sell it on Facebook, I sold a bunch of my kids' clothes like a month and a half ago, like winter stuff, and at really discounted price. And I thought, this is great because these people who are buying it, they're getting a deal. Even if they have a lot of money, how nice is it just to give somebody a deal on something quality, right? And then we were able to use that money to buy our kids coats. So that worked out really well. I mean, we obviously couldn't do that every year, but I think that's good. Michelle D, it's our issue, not the kids. Yeah. Christy, what about clear bins? Carrie says her mother was audited once and they wanted a receipt that was 20 years old. She had it, but she was also a hoarder. Well, there you go. The one time being a hoarder paid off. Yeah, I think that we were barely audited once. They wanted like one thing, but that's just it. I've scanned the important things and have it saved in a file on my computer. It takes like a few hours to get yourself organized with the paperwork, but yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it. All right. Hello, Allie. Okay, Theodore 672 says, what is a password manager? So a password manager is like Macintosh has a thing called Keychain. And there are a lot of online things, like there's one called Dashlane, and it is where you keep your passwords safe online, and they're super encrypted. Like, apparently the company themselves can't even get to your passwords. It's really just you that can. You don't want to forget your master password, and you want to change it from time to time. And then they will actually autofill a lot of things if you like, but it is like super secure. The one I use, it is like asking for my password. It's looking at my face. It's just all of these things. So I find it really helpful. And the other thing is they will be like, it'll say this password has been used 4 times. Well, that's helpful to know because I shouldn't do that. I need to change it. And it'll actually like offer you advice. And so I really like the password managers. Let me see. So I am currently decluttering my 1-year-old's toys. And my neighbor has a big family, so I can bring over anything I'm decluttering right now. You know what I love about that is I have an acquaintance, and she's got a little boy, and I will just be like, "Hey, do you want this?" And she'll be like, "Yeah," and that's perfect, right? Because she's got 2 teenagers, and then she's got like a toddler. And so Debbie says, "I love this. Not only the fear of death, but grieving the end of an era." That is exactly it. I think that for me, that is probably what I do more is like grieving the end of an era. But like you just have to sometimes have a hard talk with yourself and be like, I can't stop the inevitable from happening here. Right. So, how do you want to spend your time? Do you want to spend your time surrounded by clutter, or do you want to spend your time surrounded by peace? Do you want to, like I always say, I mean, it's time for another sip of tea, but do you want to have your tea with peace, or do you want to be surrounded by clutter? All right. My mom is keeping an ancient sewing machine for when she retires in 10 years. Oh, Samantha. Yeah. So this is one of those things where I think it's just good to lead by example. I mean, I've influenced a few of my family members, obviously, because I talk about this all the time, but wait till I get to the video about my grandparents' house, you guys. That is coming up in a few weeks. There was a lot of stuff, but yeah, people, they have to just decide what they want to do. I have a very good friend who has a mom who just has a lot of stuff. It drives my friend crazy. And I'm like, you can't let it bother you. Like it just is. It just is. My parents are not sentimental, but I am also so much so that of my siblings and my things. I have 2 toys that are almost 60 years old. I am getting up the nerve to declutter. Yay, that's great. You know what? If you can declutter it at one point, you're going to be happy it's gone, like once that stuff is there. Write the memory down. Get a book, write the memory down. Michelle, my daughter is 4. You're right. It feels like I'm letting go of all these stages. She's my baby. So it's me letting go of her being little. I get it. I think I talked about this before, that I was like, when my son was a newborn, and I remember being like, he's like 6 days old. And then he was like 2 weeks old. And I was like, oh, I'm not counting days anymore. And then I was like, well, I'm not counting weeks anymore. And then I was counting months, and then, you're counting years. I mean, that's it, right? You got to find what's the positive to them growing up. There are many. Wait till she's a teenager. All right. I use a pass for Chrome, Tammy says. And Donine says she is late and she's from Saskatchewan. Woohoo! What's the weather like in Saskatchewan right now? It is rainy here. You guys have a lot more sun in the winter. That's for sure. Okay, guys, any more questions? It's 9:50. I can't believe that I've been at this for 48 minutes. That is awesome. We will be here next week, Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific. Yes, my kids won't be here. I was like, wait a minute, is that the week they're not on school? That will be something. It'll be fine. Actually, they're teenagers. They'll probably be sleeping. But yeah, we will be rainy in Saskatchewan. Next week, a little bit more Christmas talk. I love Christmas. Okay. Please don't be bothered by how much I love talking about Christmas. And my goal for you guys is to, if you hate Christmas and it's not for like a really tragic reason, my goal for you is that you start to like it. If you don't, like if you are bothered by the commercialism or the clutter or anything. We are going to get there together. We are not going to dislike it. We are going to enjoy it because you only have so many Christmases or holidays or winter seasons, whatever you want to celebrate in your life. So let's enjoy it together. I'm going to be hitting it pretty hard, but there will be some non-Christmas videos coming up. Like I think it's like almost 50-50 over the next few weeks. And I will be actually doing 2 videos a week starting in a couple of weeks. I don't know how long I'll keep that going. Tracy says it's foggy and cold in Saskatchewan. But yeah, so, all right. I don't see any more questions, you guys. So I'm going to heat my tea up because I didn't get enough. I didn't get to drink it hot and I really like it hot. So I'm going to say goodbye and I will see you guys next week. Take care. Bye.